Another excellent commuter practice you can do while standing is simply discovering the spaces in the hip joints. And again, these are movements you can do. Nobody will notice that you're doing them. They can be small, intimate, totally private while you're waiting. Most people will be staring into their phones, okay? It's very simple. You lift the front of the foot, one foot, and you stub out a cigarette, yeah? You simply pivot on the heel a little bit in and a little bit out. Now, when you do the movement, you're actually using the movement to sense the change in the space here in the front of the hip joint, and also, if you like, in the back of the hip joint. If when you turn the leg out, if the pelvis and the spine and the head, if they don't move, well then you've probably had to open the space on the front of the hip joint. Again, you don't need to do very much at all. It can be this small, just enough for you to sense internally the change. But if you find that when you pivot on your heel, that the pelvis and the spine and the head all turn with the leg, well, that's different. Now you haven't changed the space in the front of this hip joint. You've changed the space in the front of this hip joint. This one is actually opening, and this one is closing. Yeah? They do something like that. Yeah? As opposed to that. And part of this is just starting to be able to perceive the change in the space and how that affects the support you get from your legs up and through your spine. It's something you can do pretty much anywhere. You have to stand and wait because it's very quiet and it's just you paying attention to your movements. Another variation is you can lift the heel and stub out the cigarette with the front of the foot. Yeah? Here I'm turning my whole spine and my pelvis in the same direction as the leg. So that means this space here is not changing very much at all. I'm making the movement by narrowing the space over on the other side. Yeah? If instead I turn the leg without changing everything else, well then I really have to work more on the front here and close it. Yeah? So you're just getting a sense now. The leg by itself, the leg with the rest of the spine. You can even turn a little opposite. But again, it can be incredibly small so that only you can see it. From the back, if this is helpful, you can pay attention to the change that must take place in the back of the hip joint as you do these kinds of things. Here's turning the foot out with really not much change in the pelvis and the spine. So clearly, the leg has to close the space in the back of the joint. If, however, I turn the whole spine and the pelvis, now it's this side that I've had to close. And this side remains more or less the same. There's just the leg. Here's the change from the other leg. So the discovery can be that it's the, quote, same movement, turning the leg to one side, but it can be done in more than one way. And this is something you can explore anywhere you go in the city where you're just standing and you have time. And you can, again, when your train arrives, you'll have a much clearer sense of the space in the joints, especially if you do it slowly, gently. You take time for pauses so you don't injure yourself, you don't tire yourself out. You just use it to refine. Okay? Thanks.